Guys, teacher Eli here, and today we have one more video class. Today we're going to be studying mixed conditionals and phrasal verbs. I remember you guys that all the exercises corrections will be done in our next live class, which is gonna happen next Wednesday. Alright? Well guys, without further ado, let's get started into taking a look in the mixed conditionals. Alright? So let me zoom this in to get a better view. To tell you guys that mixed conditionals are the ones who combine two different standards, two different patterns of conditionals. And they actually make different senses to the phrases which are important for you to comprehend. The mixed real conditions are the ones that we use in a general context as the same verbal tense in two different sentences. However, sometimes we can mix two different verbal tenses as present and past as an example. So if you take a look at the examples down there, if you read this book, if you read the book, you know who dies at the end. And if your employees don't understand what to do, they probably weren't paying attention earlier. Well, we can have 3 examples using those. Let's take a look at some. First, we can use the first phrase as if you read the book, or you can also say if you read the book. So you have a mixed condition by representing that the first verbal tense is in the past. So that would be if you read the book. Guys, give me one more second to get better lights. Okay, I think that's gonna be better for now. So basically, if you read the book, you know who dies at the end, or if you read the book, you know who dies at the end. When the second phrase is clearly a mixed condition, when we say that if your employees don't understand what to do, they probably weren't paying attention earlier. So we mix up a present tense with a past tense to get 2 different results. For example, if you had watched the World Cup game, you would have seen that Brazil played really well. This example, which I use right now, can be categorized into the third conditional because I'm talking about a past event which a hypothetical different conclusion than which it really had. If you had watched the soccer game, you would have seen that Brazil played really well. Well, guys, although we can mix up the verbal tenses, we still have a high relation between the 2 different sentences, right? Some conditionals are used to describe habits or past habits with would, whose meaning is the same as used to, which basically represents to be accustomed to something. Although it's very similar to a hypothetical conditional, it is not, as I previously mentioned, referring to the third conditional with the example of the Brazil's soccer game. So if it was sunny, we would go to the park and feed the swans. If it was, we would go. Isn't it the second conditional? Just think about it. If it was, is it? Probably not. But if it was, we would go. Are we going? Will we go? No. Why? Because it isn't. We would go only if it was. Do you understand? When I talk about second conditional, I'm talking about imaginary, unrealistic events. In the case of the first conditional, the modal verb will can be substituted by would. You know what I'm saying? Together with verbs like. Will can also be substituted by would rather when we have choices. For example, if I won in the lottery, I did not. Don't guess me wrong, guys. I did not win in the lottery. But if I won in lottery, I would rather buy a Lamborghini than a Ferrari. To define options, I can easily substitute will for would or would rather. You know what I'm saying? Here, guys, if it isn't a problem for you, we'd like to borrow your car for now. If it isn't a problem, we'd like to. Teacher, if it isn't a problem for you, we'd like you to explain the subject again. No, guys, it's not a problem for me. I can't explain the subject again. Why don't you go out for the weekend? Well, if it's okay with you, I'd rather stay in and watch some movies. If it is okay with you, I'd rather stay in. Why don't you play computer games? If I have to play video games, I'd rather play video games on consoles like PlayStation or Nintendo or Xbox. Now, look at this. If we had a car, do we have a car? No, we do not. If we had a car, we would have given you a ride to the party, which means two ideas that did not happen. The first one, if we had a car, we don't have a car. We would have given you a ride to the party, which means that we did not. The third conditional can substitute would have for would. In this case, the objective is to relate a past hypothetical event to a present situation. Like, if our families hadn't been neighbors, we wouldn't be friends now. Which means that our families are neighbors and we are friends now. But if they hadn't been, we wouldn't be. So I basically represent a different hypothetical past scenario with a hypothetical conclusion that can either use would have or would. And that is the difference when it comes to the third conditional into the mixed conditions. Well, other conditional clauses or other conditional conjunctions, you know what I'm saying, can be represented by unless, as long as, only if, so long that, on condition that, providing that, and provided that. And the choice between this reflects in general mode a higher formality, being most common words to be written with. For example, we'll reschedule the concert unless the weather improves. We will reschedule the concert unless the weather improves. So we could also say, if the weather improves, we'll reschedule the concert. Another example of first condition that can be mixed up with expression unless. Unless I call you, we meet at 10 a.m. at the coffee house. If I don't call you, we meet at 10 a.m. at the coffee house. Zero conditional, something that is previously arranged that is going to happen in a certain condition. That can also be a representative of things that always happen in a certain condition. In both of these examples, unless is pretty much the same as except if. Except if I call you, we meet at 10 a.m. For the second case right there, as long as and only if, you can have another ice cream as long as or only if you promise to be a good boy today. I can do this talking about myself. I will only eat, I can have another slice of pizza only if or as long as I start a diet tomorrow. You can get your PlayStation 5 as long as you get approved in the entrance exam. You can get your Xbox Series X only if you don't fail in any school subject for the 3rd grade. So long that and on condition that we will pay what they demand. So long that they are efficient in their work. We'll pay that, we'll pay what they demand on condition that they are efficient in their work. Could I invert this kind of phrases? Yes, you could. But in these cases, I would rather go for a simple conditional clause. If they are efficient at their work, we'll pay their demand. And that would be representing the first conditional as we previously studied last week, guys. Providing that or provided that, you can do whatever you like provided it is within the law. You can do whatever you like providing that is within the law. Actually, some people would say do whatever you want providing that is within the law. For those who get the reference from AC. Well, guys, para saber mais sobre o assunto, vocês têm uma dica do Cambridge Dictionary e no Plug-se, que é um link gerado aqui nos livros. Homework para vocês, lembro que vou corrigir todo esse homework na nossa aula ao vivo da próxima quarta-feira, que é a parada obrigatória da página 12, da página 13 e aqui na página 14 vocês têm um pequeno sumário falando sobre zero conditional, que é uma condição em um fato, first conditional, que é algo provável, second conditional, algo improvável, e a third conditional, impossível, pois trata-se de eventos passados, ou seja, situações imaginárias que não têm como acontecer. Para mixed conditional, eu posso usar tanto uma condição real em uso de fatos, hábitos passados ou até mesmo preferências, que é o caso de I'd rather, né? If I won the lottery, I'd rather buy a Lamborghini than a Ferrari. If I started streaming on the internet, I'd rather stream PlayStation than Xbox games, Microsoft games. Or unreal conditionals, which have an usage connected to hypothetical situations plus past events, or connection between imaginary past events plus present situations. Right, guys? Let me just type here the homeworks which are pages 14, 13, and 12. So homework, just get it here. 12, 13, and 14, which will be corrected in our next live class. Of course, we're not going to be finished the class today because we're going to be talking about this, one of my favorite subjects to work with in English, the so-called phrasal verbs. Why do I say so-called phrasal verbs? Because the American people don't actually study phrasal verbs. Phrasal verbs are something are some things which are basically insert into their culture, you know what I'm saying? And the phrasal verbs are, as we call in Portuguese, verbo phrasal, basically consists in a two meaning expression, which can be literal or idiomatic. Being the literal as a literal sense, and the idiomatic having a different sense than the combined words would have separately. You know what I'm saying? We have here some explanations, huh? And when the base out, let me just tell you something that is really important, was escaping from my mind. Basically, a phrasal verb is the combination of a verb with a preposition, the combination of a verb with another verb, or the combination of a verb with an adverb, right? And then we will have these two meanings, the idiomatic and the literal meaning. That's it, guys. Well, let's take a look here. In general, the meaning, for example here, go. I will go to London next year. Go on. I won't go on without your help. You see that these two phrases are totally different. Basically, when I use the preposition on together with go, I completely change the meaning of the expression. Being go equal ir, and go on, continuar. Go, ir, go on, continuar. Keep on going, continue. For example, keep on going. You see that by mixing up expressions, I can change their meaning and usage as well. Let's observe some word formations down here and some phrasal verbs with the verb stand. This verb means ficar, in pé, for obvious, but now let's take a look at some changes, like stand up, levantar-se, please stand up when the school principal arrives. Stand for, representar ou apoiar. What does this abbreviation stand for? They think the president should stand for the human rights. Do you see it, guys? How can connecting a simple preposition to a verb can basically change its whole meaning? Stand by, to give support. I won't be afraid of anything as long as you stand by me. Stand by me, oh, stand by me. I remember this Beatles song. Yeah. Stand out. The phrasal verb who is best suited for students like Amanda, Rebecca, Gabi, Gabriel, Luis Felipe. Why? Because these guys stand out among the others. Destacar-se The color of the flowers stand out in the landscape. I can't forget my friend Victor Hugo. Well, among other changes being the literal meaning or the original meaning of the verb, the phrasal verbs can carry on different meanings, which can be used in a figurative sense, the idiomatic use. Let's observe the verb get into. This verb has different meanings. The literal one, which means entrar fisicamente, like they managed to get into the house, but either it has the figurative meaning, the idiomatic meaning, tornar-se interessado. For example, he's getting into music lately, he's getting into video games lately. Getting into a person, to be interested in that person. You see that the same phrasal verb can have two different meanings. I can use another example from the phrasal verb bring up. You can either bring up something to a conversation, for example, oh, he brought up politics subject, or to bring somebody up, which means raising a person, like raising a child, raising a pet, bringing a pet, bringing up a child, bringing up a pet. All right. In this way, it's possible to realize that the phrasal verbs carry irrelevant meanings, and sometimes they are going to be idiomatic, they are going to be figurative, they're not going to be literal. And well, it's not always that easy to spot, so basically we're going to have to practice this a lot. Well, I have another topic here that's called transitivity. And as the phrasal verb, as the verbs, as well as the verbs, the phrasal verbs show transitivity. Some phrasal verbs are transitory, which means that they demand a complement or an objective, something or somebody, the object or the subject of the phrase, which means about what we're talking or what are we talking about. For example, I'll try on the dress. The phrasal verb try on means experimentar, and it demands complement, like somebody tries on something, alguém experimenta algo. Trying on a food, trying on a dress, trying on a pair of pants, trying on some shoes. Sandra handed in the paper to her teacher. Hand in means entregar. So, analyzing the context of the phrase, we understand that are necessary some complements. Sandra entregou algo a alguém. Sandra handed in the paper to her teacher. Handed in what? To whom? Sometimes even when or where or how. Sandra handed in her paper to the teacher at the school's meeting. Sandra handed in. Sandra happily handed in her paper to the teacher in the school's meeting. You see, how can I complement my phrasal verbs by adding more information to it? Other phrasal verbs are intransitory, which means they don't need a complement to establish their meaning. For example, I want to be famous when I grow up. Grow up, crescer, does not need a complement because the meaning itself is complete. The demonstrations have settled down recently. Settle down, acalmar-se, does not have a complement or does not need a complement either. For example, after my 30-year-old anniversary. After their 30-year-old anniversary, they decide to settle down. Talking about a couple here. Settle down what? It's obviously to settle down their life, alright? Zoom. Phrasal verbs podem ser formados com a adição de uma ou mais partículas. Por exemplo, I will carry on with my studies, or I need to take care of my sister. You can see that I can either get together one or more prepositions, one or more adverb, or even mix up adverbs and prepositions with verbs. And take a look at some commonly used transitive phrasal verbs. Some of the phrasal verbs, the most common ones in English are to bear with. For example, I'm a little late, but I'm on my way. Bear with me. I appreciate the most that you guys bear with me for 1 year. Thank you so much, guys. Not easy though, right? Yeah, I know. To come across. Oh, you have the translations right here. I'm not going to be reading the translations so you do not cut the vibe. So just pay attention to the material. You're going to be able to spot the translations though, right? So to come across, we came across a path we had never seen before. We'd never seen before. I like to come across a wallet full of gold, 1 million reais in gold bars, which actually worth more than money. Some people would say. Do you believe it? To count on, we're best friends, you can always count on me. Yes, guys, I've told you this. You can always count on me for any kind of tip or question that you might have towards English. Obviously, if I can, I help you if I can. Yeah. I'm probably going to try to figure out a solution. Talking about figure out, it took some time for me to figure out what the teacher was saying. Sometimes you try to figure out, to understand, to realize something. I'm really bad to figure out things. Really, really bad, guys. Really bad. To fill in your name, phone number, and address, please. Can you fill in a cup? Can you fill in a mug? Can you fill in a glass with beer? Fill in a tank full of gasoline? Yes, you can. To get over, same thing as overcome. It's not easy to get over an illness and a breakup. Now, guys, here, look at me. How can we get over a broken heart? Can you answer this one? Should I assign this phrasal verb question as a homework? How can we get over a broken heart? That's not that easy, right? Well, to overcoming situations is not an easy task, and it will never be. But getting over a broken heart is definitely one of the hardest. To give away is the same thing to donate, right, guys? And I gave away my old clothes for charity. I know that you guys have collected a bunch of clothes which were given away by people who didn't need for a kind of contest that we had at Superativo. So congratulations to everybody. To go after, to pursue. We went after her to say sorry, but she said she had just gone home. Have you ever had to go after somebody? Yeah. I don't know, sometimes I'm afraid. You know what I'm saying? Here, to look for is the same thing as to search. I'm looking for my wallet. I haven't seen it. I'm looking for a job. The person is looking for a job, looking for someone, looking for something he has lost. To search. To pick up. You can pick up things you left on the floor. You can pick up things on the table. You can pick up people at places like pick me up at school when the class have finished, and this kind of things. So pick up in all means. You can see that phrasal verbs can be applied to different means, right, guys? To put aside. To put aside. Okay. They put aside their differences and decide to marry. Yeah. Wow, what do you do, guys? What would you do, guys? Would you put aside your differences to marry a person? Is it worth putting aside your differences to marry a person, or is it better to stay single? What a question, what a hard question. I'm not gonna be the one to answer this. I'm not gonna be the one. To put away is the same thing as to reserve. I'll try to put away some money for a new cell phone. I actually put away a lot of money in order to get PS5. Not cheap at all. Not cheap at all. To sell off a liquidation, alright? The store has started to sell off their products. There's nobody selling off PS5s. Are there iPhone 12 Pros? No. To show off, her intention was to show off her catwalk skills. Do you know catwalk like Gisele Bündchen, Alessandra Ambrosio, Naomi Campbell, Kate Moss? Let's zoom in. Outros verbos, phrasal verbs, transitivos comuns são back up, call off, carry out, come along, get away with, get rid of, which I love this because you can use it about like things. And use one example for each phrasal verb. Okay, let's go from the beginning. So back up. Thank you guys so much for all the backup you have given me. Call off. Please don't call off your subscription at Superativa. You won't be able to apply for Superativa next year because you're probably gonna be at college, right? So don't call off your college subscription. Carry out, I hope you can carry out all your dreams. To come along, I would love to come along your results as the years go by. To get away with, Lula has gotten away with a bunch of crimes and a horrible country administration. I'm sorry if you guys like that. Go away. Sometimes I wish for her to go away, but sometimes I want to stay. I want to stay. Do you remember that from Rihanna? Yeah, the Rihanna song "Stay." Look after. If you want to have pets, you better look after them. Look forward to. Are you guys looking forward to your graduation, your prom party? Make fun of. You can make fun of me. Sometimes I mess up pretty bad in classes. Make out, compreender. Sometimes people, depending their accent, like Australian accent, it's really hard to make out. You know what I'm saying? But interesting enough, I can make out some stuff in Japanese. Nihongo. make something up. I have to make some classes up when I don't have the digital materials. Put off when we can't have an appointment, we better put off. And never run after a person. If he likes you, he'll stay. Run over. I don't think I have ever ran over anything in my life, thankfully. Set up. Is it easy to set up a business? Have you guys thought about that? Stand for. Do Bolsonaro stand for you? Stand by. Do you stand by him? Stand someone up. Stand someone up. I don't like when people stand me up, actually. Don't take away my games, please. And would you like to try on horse meat? They eat this in Greece. And turn on and turn off. Suppose you can I could turn on the lights here, but I prefer the lights to be turned off and to have this different vibe. Oh, this exercise here on page 17 is going to be a homework as well. Let's put here 14, 17. Let's go up now talking about commonly used intransitive phrasal verbs. Some phrasal verbs are intransitive, and some of the most common ones in English are to break in, like the burglar broke into somebody's house and stole a bunch of stuff. The thieves have broken through the window, broken in the window. To catch up. Do you guys like to catch up? Actually, it's different. To keep up with the Kardashians. Can you catch up with my running? We're running on the street. I'm running really fast. Can you catch up with me? Not catch up like the catch up they put on the hot dogs. Different kind of ketchup. To come out. One day I dreamed about having a book coming out on iBookstore. To drop out. My mother was a school dropout. Was anyone in your family a school dropout? To fade away. The ninja was fading away into the shadow.